Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael. We're excited you joined us for this adventure.
So today's very special guest is Bethany Smith. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to this. It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are too. It's just always been cool to even see like another couple working together because I know you and your husband Nate do that. And so like Michael and I were naturally very drawn to you two, although Nate is not joining us today, but it's just very cool to see another couple in the space. So yes, thank you again for being here. And we are excited to do this with you today.
Absolutely. Same here. Same here.
Absolutely. Bethany, would you mind sharing with our adventurous family a little bit more about your background and why you started investing in real estate?
Sure. For my husband, Nate, and I, we got married fairly young. We met in high school and long story short, started dating and got married fairly young. He was active duty Air Force at the time. And I was going to school for elementary education degree, actually. Wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. Dropped out of college early to marry Nate and move across the country. And I think, as you guys kind of understand, I think as well, there's a unique challenge for military families, especially military spouses, if they're career driven or want to contribute to the family's financial household health, then it can be really hard to, well, this was 12 years ago too, before online learning and online education and remote work was really a thing, but it was hard to start a career and be able to have it progress with you as you're moving duty stations or you're encountering TDYs and deployments and those kind of things. And so I struggled for a little bit to kind of find a niche in which I would settle and be able to advance a career. I initially started in education. So that was my degree. I figured, okay, let's do this education thing. I worked online for a company remotely for a few years doing online tutoring and mentoring. But then caught the real estate bug and thought, well, maybe I want to be a realtor. And that's something that can kind of move with me and grow with me that I could advance living different places and things. And so thought I wanted to be a real estate agent. So I applied for a job working as an executive assistant to a realtor. And it was a phenomenal experience. I loved it. I think I did that almost 4 years. I eventually merged into more of a director of operations role, managing that real estate team. And it was so much fun. We were one of the top teams in Utah, learned a ton about closing process works for a piece of real estate and, how to do due diligence and things like that. Ultimately caught the commercial real estate bug because a lot of those people that we were working with as, buyers, they were investors. They were buying single family homes to rent, fourplexes, sixplexes, things like that. And I really liked working with them. I liked their non-emotional approach to buying versus residential home buyers that can just kind of be a little all over the place. I saw how they were getting cash flow on their properties. I saw them doing like short-term rentals and things like that. And Nate and I at the time had also acquired our first short-term rental, and that was going pretty well. And it was a single family home that we rented out by the door. And so that kind of got us interested and comfortable with the thought of having multiple doors and it's multifamily. Yeah. So ultimately closed that chapter and then started on my commercial or multifamily real estate investing journey in 2019.
Cool. And I have a question. How many times did you move while you were I guess technically leveraging real estate in real estate?
So we've moved 9 times in 12 years. I think for the real estate portion, we were on like our fourth. And then I worked remotely for that real estate team through a couple moves. And then when we got into multifamily, we had just moved to California, which was our most recent move. But then we've moved again while we're in California. And now we're just habitually nomadic. Like now we just want to we get antsy living in a place for more than 2 or 3 years. So
yeah, see, but that's like the coolest part of real estate, right? That you can move and it's totally fine. You can have that itch and scratch it whenever you want. It's cool that even as a military spouse, because I feel that too. I felt it while we were still living over here, I'd finished my MBA and then I go into the job world and especially we're in the UK, they're like, does that really mean anything? And I'm like, there's no way. I just did all of this work to not do work. You know what I mean? And so exactly. Now real estate, just like having that power to be able to do it from anywhere, like real estate spouse or not real estate spouse. Wow. Military spouse or not, just makes a huge difference. But it makes the difference when your kids have sports or when you want to do an extended weekend or weeks with your family and friends, whatever that means. That's the power. And that's one of my favorite parts of it all.
Yeah, I think there's a unique dynamic that comes from being a military family and getting started in real estate investing, because a lot of times you're exposed to different parts of the nation, the world, even different backgrounds, and you're seeing all these different people from different backgrounds get started in real estate investing. And there's so many good values that are present in the military that translate into building a team and having leadership skills and those kind of things. So it's definitely a great place for military to start to get their feet wet. Our first investment property, actually, when we were first married, was a single family home that was a foreclosure that we fixed up and started renting it just by default, because we bought it with a VA loan, and you have to hang on to a house and be the primary resident for X amount of years on paper, but we could rent it out to full-time renters. Petrified at first about it. And our family all thought we were nuts. Oh no, these people are going to destroy your home. And we're like, we don't really care. We don't live there anymore. So we're just going to try this out, see how it goes. We cash flowed $150 a month and thought we were the Rockefellers,
I love
We had to replace the AC and then the roof. We're like, oh man, there goes all of our proceeds. But it got us kind of our feet wet in real estate investing, and we read Rich Dad, Poor Dad around that same time. And so that kind of started that learning process. But it was being able to house hack our first home. How many young 21, 22-year-olds can go buy a home?
I was going to say, and even something else that you said is like with single family, people become really emotional with it. And I wish more military, right, would like not be emotional with it, because they can really take advantage of that housing allowance if they took the emotion out. Because so many people move to like these places. Some love the cities and some don't, but they're like, oh my gosh, I want my dream home then. And it's, wait a second. If you are just like a little bit patient, like you can get your dream home paid for by all these other homes. Like you don't have to pay for it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish more of that education even went on in the military world.
Oh, absolutely. That's our other full-time business, but that's a big platform of ours, helping people understand, like, if you buy assets, those can pay for your everyday things and your nice things eventually. But we live in such a microwave culture. I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. Like, table that for a bit and work on this side over here. And then that passive income can then pay for some of these things that you want eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to backtrack just like a couple of steps here, because you mentioned your cash flow like 150 from a single family house, and you thought you were,
the Rockefellers.
Awesome, the Rockefellers. And it's crazy. Once we started looking at real estate, and we're like, okay, we started down that rabbit hole of like single family, and then I just kept doing the numbers over and over, and I was like trying to convince myself that like hitting the base hit or whatever they say, of $100 a month in cash flow was like really great. And I was like, that's a lot of work for one house, one door, right? And you get 150. And I was like, and then discovering the power of multifamily, you get 100 doors, right? And it's just so powerful. And then like you said, like there's so much cash flow to cover things like that if the furnace goes out or air conditioning goes out or something like that. I think it's just such a great thing to be able to leverage the power of more and more, right? Scalability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it clicked a light bulb on for us that, okay, we could go out and buy 50 single family homes, but then that's 50 closings, 50 due diligence walkthroughs, 50 different sellers you're dealing with. Oh my gosh. So learn pretty quick, like, all right, in order to scale and do more of these, it's better to look at multifamily.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually talking to an investor the other day, and he put together like a portfolio of like, he had over 100 single family homes at one point. And he's like, it took years off my life, literally trying to manage that.
Wow. Yeah.
Discovered multifamily. He was like, wait a second, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing I love so much about it is the space itself. It's a pretty small space. I'm constantly bumping elbows with this person over here I met at a conference and this friend over here, that it's pretty small space. You're going to run into a lot of the same people, and it's such a like value-based community for the most part, where it's like, hey, I need a resource. I need a referral. Okay, here you go. Yeah, I'm looking for somebody with a CoStar access. Oh, I got that. Or I know this guy over here. So it's such a I don't really know the word for it, but it's just what's that?
I said like giving community.
Yeah. Yeah. For the most part, every once in a while you're going to have somebody that's kind of stingy, but
totally. I was going to say, I love that like throughout the process though, because you mentioned it just a little bit, like your other business where you're impacting other people just through everything that you've learned like throughout your real estate journey. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So to back up a second, Nate and I have been serial entrepreneurs pretty much our whole lives. Ever since we got married, we liked the idea of working together. It's awesome you guys work together. We love that about you guys when we first met you. We love seeing couples work together because they're so complementary in life.
Mhm.
Why not do business together? I know some people are like, oh, we could never work together. It can never, but it's like, but you work in all other things, household and financial and things like that. And for us, we found ourselves after work during the day, we were working on projects together. We were either renovating that stupid first house that we had, or we were in Amway for a little while. I had a personal training company. We had a lawn mowing business. He's had a digital marketing company. Like we've done a lot of different things, always looking for the right mesh of two businesses that would work together symbiotically and complement each other. Mm-hmm. So honestly, we're really happy with what we found and the niches we've fallen into. On the business side that we have with doing multifamily, I got started in that 2019 and been working on growing that. And then on his side, I would say we work together in both, but on his side is our financial services company that we started in 2020. And we were looking for basically a cash flow generating business that we'd be able to invest more aggressively in multifamily and other avenues as well, but mainly multifamily. And we also wanted something that we could have a team, that we would be growing a team together. We love travel. So that's a huge part of it. He's in aviation. He's a pilot. Anything that involves like traveling and flying, especially getting from point A to point B, he's all about. So we wanted something that would kind of encompass these different interests and lifestyle preferences that we have. And so we found that them to be very symbiotic. We have a lot of folks in our financial services agency that have an interest in multifamily investing. One of our agents is doing small multis up in Idaho. And then on the flip side, in multifamily, we've had a lot of folks from our real estate network want to either become a client or even join our business on the financial services side. So they're very symbiotic. They're very complementary. They're very like, we're out this week in Arizona doing work for multifamily, which is essentially my side, but Nate's able to do all the same work he's been doing because it's all Zoom based anyway. And so it's really fun to be able to experience life together in those different ways and be building businesses, but then building a life together as well. So I know it's not everybody's cup of tea to be quite that involved with your spouse, but for us, it really works. We really enjoy it.
And I love that, like with that, you're impacting others, but then you're impacting your relationship as well. Just like strengthening, growing, educating all of the time. That's what I love. It's cool how many like different places it can touch or how many touch points it has. Like when you actually break it down, right? Because people can think about it and they're like, oh, well, like, yeah, we created this other business that goes alongside like our multifamily, but what does it do? It's like, no, if you were to write it all down, like all the people and all the families, vendors or whatever that it touches, it makes a huge difference. And so that's like just one of my like favorite things is just like the impact portion, no matter which way you look at it, right? Because although it means something different to everyone, there's still an impact being created. And that's the best part.
Amen. Amen, sister. That's that gets me really fired up as well on the multifamily side. If I didn't see that and the fruition of my efforts with that, I would kind of, I don't know. Not that I get bored really easily. Like I would lose interest in it, I think. But the fact that you can come in and turn around what I'm really passionate about is a really rough community that's got crime, maybe they got drug dealing, human trafficking, other nasty things going on. And you can come in and be like, that's not okay. This is going to stop right now. And you get contract security in there, better lighting, security cameras, good management, and you can turn that community around where now it's like, city resources aren't being expended and the trash service is happier with you, the police department, all the different programs that maybe place low income tenants, it's just like, such a better way to conduct business. And you see that ripple effect through the community. The local businesses are happy, so I love that word with one purchase and one renovation business plan execution, you can turn around almost an entire neighborhood just with even a small multifamily,
Yeah, totally. Because like one or two residents, right, can really do damage to an entire community and not know it, or other people don't even know it's like affecting them negatively, right? So even just to be able to put up lighting so that something doesn't happen anymore it's huge. It's huge. And like, who thinks about that? Oh, lighting creates impacts. It's like it does.
Yeah. Our first property purchase was a little 36 unit and it had 2 drug dealers in there. And, they were it was the bad apple on the block. And anytime I would tell someone where we were buying a property and they're just like, oh, that's a rough neighborhood. And I was like, yeah, it's rough because of that property. Like we had contract security do a site assessment of that whole neighborhood and our property specifically. And we'd always, at first, when we first closed, like for the first 30 days, it was like through that place, vagrants hopping the front fence, running through, cutting in the back. I had neighbors mad at me. The police were out there a bunch, but then after about 30, 45 days, it really quieted down. And so just seeing that ripple effect throughout the neighborhood, now it's a pretty quiet neighborhood. There's like brand new townhomes built at the end of the street, really nice condo complex next to us. But this one was like kind of the bad apple in the bunch that was ruining all the other, environment around it. So that to me is just like so rewarding. And then building those community relationships with, police and, housing development agencies and things like that. It's just really rewarding to see that.
Yeah. Totally agree. I want to back up again. Famous for this. But I feel like we skipped over something that I'm sure our listeners are out there wanting to ask this question. And basically what I want to back up to is like you talked about working with your spouse, right? So a lot of listeners are out there probably, man, if I can only get my spouse on board with real estate investing or any other kind of entrepreneurial things that they want to do.
Because it is extra work, right? It's like, do you want extra work on top of your marriage?
Yeah. So what I would ask you, Bethany, is like, do you have any advice for somebody, so our listeners out there who are trying to get their spouse on board with the idea of investing in real estate or like starting, a real estate investing firm or whatever they want to do with their spouse?
Yes. So I used to be I would almost say hostile towards the idea of getting into yet another thing. Like I mentioned, Nate and I were serial entrepreneurs. There was a point in our marriage where I was done with the entrepreneur thing. I'm like, this kind of sucks. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I'm tired of trying new things. And I'm just going to work a job. This was when I worked as a director of operations for a real estate team. I'm just going to work this job that I really enjoy for a few years and take a break, And he started following Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
Love him now. I used to hate him. I was just like, that guy is so abrasive and annoying and flashy and just turn it off. Like I can't even stand. I remember it's just turn it off. Like I cannot stand to listen to this guy. And so we'd listen to him in the car with earphones. But I kind of shut down any conversation, even of entrepreneurial stuff or real estate investing or anything. And meanwhile, this is while we're living in a fourplex that we house hacked that we're renting out by the bedroom. And we're one of the tenants without telling the other tenants that we're the owners. Or real estate investing, just not on a big scale. And I just remember him over the course of probably 6 months, he would just ask me, what does it look like for you in 10 years time? I would love for you to not have to work so hard. Because I was working a lot. I was working 12 hours over the weekend, a lot of times on call situation. I really enjoyed it, but it was just a lot of work. And he would be like, what if you didn't have to work so hard? What would you spend your day doing? And I was like, I don't know. I don't even working. Like,
yeah.
Like, no, really. No. What would you do? What do you like to do? Who would you want to be spending time with? Would you want to travel a lot? Do you want to have kids? Like just all these different options. Got the wheels turning over the course of a couple months. I'm just like, I don't really want to work this hard the rest of my life. And I would like to have, passive income sources. I want to be able to take care of my mom and dad. I'd like to be involved in community things and helping improve communities and that sort of stuff. And then he live streamed Grant's 10X Growth Con. It was, I think, his second one ever. And I was kind of forced to listen to it because I had hurt my back in the gym being stupid. And so I was like laid out and listening to this conference. And I remember hearing Ed Milet. And Ed was a similar vein of Grant, talking about like entrepreneurial things and personal development and being able to take care of your family and everything. And he's a lot more calm than Grant. And we actually work with Ed now on the financial services side and just phenomenal human being. But hearing him talk, I was like, all right, I like that guy a lot. And long story short, I came to like Grant as well. He's just a polarizing personality. Yeah. But those two things combined where I just kind of heard, someone at a level at which we'd like to be financially, just speak so plainly about I'm able to do really cool things and help a lot of people because I'm so financially well off. And this is how I use my money. That's kind of the message I heard from Ed. And but Nate's continually asking me, how would you be spending your time? And I'd like to spend more time with you. And then he would be like, you don't have to be involved. You don't have to be involved on the day to day. Just be supportive. I'd like you to come to this event with me. You can stay in the hotel during the day, but I'd like you to come and just meet who I'm meeting and that sort of thing. And I was like, all right, I can do that. And so then you're meeting people that they're meeting and you find out they're cool people. And this was at a 10X Growth Con. We went to a Rod Cleef multifamily conference. We went to a bunch of other stuff, but then that started to really get me even more on board. I'm meeting the same people he's meeting. I see that they're cool. I see the kind of lifestyles they're living. And so that's really kind of, I would never in a million years have had responded more favorably if he was like, look, this is my deal and you're going to support me or else. Okay. Like that kind of, ultimatum would not have worked. But the fact that he was just a lot more inquisitive and gracious about it and like what's important to you so that you can ultimately find out that you're aligned in a lot of ways that you maybe wouldn't have thought. He would like to own a fighter jet and a fleet of other airplanes. That's not necessarily what I want someday, but I want to be able to do, this over here. And to accomplish either of those things, we have to be the same goal. You know what I mean? And
the same path. Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember going to a conference and had like, I don't know how many guys came up to me, a couple of them crying. And they were like, how did he get you here? How did he get you here? It was really sad. Yeah. And I'm sure they're fine now, but kind of told them the same thing, just start having a conversation and then try to bring her here. Hey, it's a vacation. You can sit in the room or whatever. You don't have to like necessarily interact, but I'd love for you to come and experience it.
Yeah. And I think a couple of the questions that he asked, right? Like, where do you see yourself? What is important to you? Like when they're only directed about like your self-reflection, like that's cool because it shows that the other person cares, but two, it's you actually get the chance to respond, right? And be like, oh, well, he asked wanting to know the answer. So now I can actually give like that heartfelt, real answer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I really like that he did that. That's like a 10 for 10.
Basically, he made you paint a picture of what you wanted in the future and then basically led you down the same path that he's on, right? It's like, look, we have to work together down the same path in order to achieve these goals that we want, which is really cool. Yeah. I love it.
Have you guys familiar with the book called Rocket Fuel?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it yet. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really good book that was great for business, but then as in relationships, it doesn't talk about romantic relationships at all in the book, but he talks about the relationship between a visionary and an integrator. And so you have a visionary who's kind of the big picture person, the fuel in the rocket ship. This is where we're going. But then the integrator is the one who's on a daily, basically the executor. Well, okay, that's your vision and I'm all on board with you. So I'm going to help you integrate and execute. I have this relationship with our business partner as well in real estate. He's a visionary, I'm an integrator, but in Nate and I's relationship, he's a visionary, I'm the integrator. So I don't really have a big vision. I'm a pretty simple person. I'm here for the ride. I want to accomplish big things, but I don't necessarily have like this huge vision. He does. And where I have a strength and I can help support him is on the day-to-day execution, the organization, the crossing T's, dotting I's type thought, and just making sure we're kind of keeping things in this space, moving towards that common vision. So it's a really good book for business and life, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely check that out. I've heard multiple people recommend it to me. I just haven't, taken the action to get it yet. But
there's a good little YouTube video that draws out like a cartoon for it too.
Oh, cool.
That's cool.
Check that out.
We'll start there.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
This is a really cool conversation about bringing your spouse on board with the divisions that you have or the businesses that you want to create in order to make sure that you're both on the same path together. Which is really cool. And I thank you so much for sharing that, Bethany. Unfortunately, we're coming towards the end of the show, which takes us to the Adventurous Four. These are 4 exploratory questions we ask all of our guests. So Bethany, the first question we have for you is, where is one place you wish to travel to and why?
Bora Bora is really far up there. I want to stay in those little overwater hut bungalow things.
It's on our vision board right here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's like the glass floor so you can see the fish. And
yeah, that's super cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. So the second question is, what is one thing on your bucket list and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
I was kind of thinking about this. in terms of bucket list, you kind of think of like vacations or things you want to have and or experiences and that sort of thing. But I would say taking care of my parents has always been at the top of my must do's in life. And that's one reason we have really wanted to build businesses, is because we want not only that financial freedom, but we want the time freedom. You know, you could make all the money in the world, but if you don't have the time to be able to step away and spend a month in the hospital with your parents or a child, if you have a child, we don't have kids, you want to be able to have both of those in conjunction. And so we saw real estate, you know, ultimately our other business as well. But once you get to a point where you're not having to put in the work day to day to make the active income all the time, and you can step away, that's a true business where you can step away and it still continues to grow without you. So that's the biggest thing, having that financial freedom.
I like that a lot.
For sure. That's really cool. The third question we have for you is, what is one piece of advice for someone who wants to start passively investing?
Passively? So, you know, I would say just do it.
Totally.
Take action.
One thing I think that I can't stand the most is analysis paralysis. And obviously I do it as well, but I'm very sensitive to it and cognizant of the fact that most people just think themselves into a hole with doing anything. You know, if you want to invest, take a sum of money that you can afford to lose, but just go do it. Get started. And what's the worst that can happen? You lose that money? Okay. Don't put your life savings into it, but just start and go out there and get it. I think the thing I love about real estate is there's so many ways you can go about it to invest. And there's, you know, cash flow model, appreciation model, like you can do multifamily, you can do short-term rentals, you can do whatever. But the key is to get started. So then you start learning. And I feel like overall real estate investing is very simple, but it's not easy. And so, but once you learn kind of the basics, that it's translatable to every different space, but I would just say, go just do it, meaning networking. You know, someone has what you want and someone, your network's your net worth. And so the more people that you can meet in your focus, like your focus area, if there's a place you want to invest, then go find out who's investing there successfully and see if you can tag on with them, type thing.
Totally. Thank you for that. And then the fourth and final question is, if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
So I would say by building connections, like the concept we've been, you know, you talking about as well with, you know, the multifamily and ripple effect that you can kind of change in a community. Like, I love that idea so much, that you can be a community enhancer, you know, and help people play along together and get things accomplished together, where you're not at these standstills and you're right, you're wrong type thing, but it's like, let's work for the good of the entire community and work together and then make it a better place for everybody, that we don't have, you know, that we don't have problems and crime and things like that. So I would say through that.
I like it.
Yeah, that's great. Before we end the show, Bethany, would you mind sharing with our adventurous family how they can find out more about you or get in contact with you?
Absolutely. Probably the easiest place is on Instagram or Facebook. We have Your Cashflow Couple as a page, and that's a kind of a one-stop shop to find both Nate and myself. And then love to connect on calls with people, talk multifamily, to talk general, you know, financial concepts and things like that. We're really passionate about helping people get started on their entrepreneurial journeys. And we've spent a lot of money and a lot of time looking into different avenues, you know, in entrepreneurship, and have a good amount of connections and things. So we love connecting with people to kind of help them get that ball rolling.
Love that. Yeah. And for listeners out there, when you connect with Bethany, make sure you mention that you heard her on the Adventures of Real Estate Investor, and she'll make sure to answer that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Bethany, thank you so much for joining us today. It is always a pleasure. And I really do love just like all the knowledge that you gave, even just about, right, like your military experience with housing, with moving, with working, and then like how to work with your spouse. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome, you guys. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
For sure. Until next time, explore more, adventure awaits.
Woo!